The roar of the crowd was deafening. Our high school gym was packed, every seat filled, and people were standing along the walls. Tonight was the night. The championship game. Northwood High versus our rivals, the Southwood Sharks. The air crackled with anticipation, thick with the scent of popcorn and sweat. This wasn't just any game, this was for all the marbles, for bragging rights, and for a shot at the state tournament. For me, it was everything. My name is Alex, and basketball is my life. Ever since I was a little kid, dribbling a worn-out basketball in my driveway, I've dreamt of playing in the NBA. I've watched countless games, studying the moves of my heroes, imagining myself in their shoes. Every practice, every drill, every late-night shooting session was fueled by that dream. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew it would take sacrifice and dedication. But I was ready. I was the starting point guard for Northwood, and tonight, the pressure was on. My teammates, my coach, my family, everyone was counting on me to lead us to victory. I could feel their eyes on me as I dribbled the ball up the court, the rhythmic thump-thump a steady beat against the pounding in my chest. The Sharks were tough. They had a star player of their own, a towering center named Marcus who was a force to be reckoned with. Our game plan was simple: push the pace, play aggressive defense, and limit Marcus's touches. Easy to say, harder to do. The first quarter was a back-and-forth battle. We traded baskets, neither team able to gain a significant advantage. I managed to score a few early points, driving to the basket and hitting a three-pointer from the top of the key. But Marcus was a problem, dominating the boards and scoring at will. As the second quarter began, the intensity ratcheted up even further. The fouls started piling up, and the tension in the gym was palpable. I knew I had to step up, to take control of the game and lead my team. I drove hard to the basket, weaving through defenders, my eyes fixed on the rim. I leaped into the air, ready to lay the ball in, when... crash! Everything went white. A searing pain shot through my left knee, so intense that I screamed. I landed awkwardly on the hard court, my leg buckling beneath me. The roar of the crowd faded into a distant hum as I lay there, gasping for breath, my world spinning. I knew, deep down, that something was terribly wrong. The pain was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I tried to get up, but my leg wouldn't support me. I collapsed back onto the floor, clutching my knee, tears welling up in my eyes. The referee blew his whistle, stopping the game. My teammates rushed over to me, their faces etched with concern. Our coach knelt beside me, his voice calm and reassuring. "Alex, what happened? Are you okay?" I shook my head, unable to speak. The pain was too overwhelming. The team doctor arrived and examined my knee. His face was grim. "We need to get him off the court," he said. "I think he may have seriously injured his knee." Two of my teammates helped me to my feet and carried me off the court. As I was being helped off, I looked up at the scoreboard. The game was tied. The championship was still within reach. But I knew, in that moment, that my season, and maybe my future, was over. As I sat on the bench, watching the rest of the game unfold, a wave of despair washed over me. The Sharks eventually pulled away and won by 10 points. But the loss wasn't what hurt the most. It was the realization that my dream, the dream I had worked so hard for, might be shattered. The world swam back into focus, but it was a blurry, distorted version of what it had been just moments before. The pain was still there, a constant throbbing that radiated from my knee down to my toes. I lay on the bench, my leg propped up on a pile of towels, watching the game unfold. Every cheer from the crowd, every squeak of sneakers on the court, was a painful reminder of what I was missing. The team doctor, Dr. Miller, came over and sat beside me. He had a kind face, but his eyes were filled with concern. "Alex," he said gently, "I need to be honest with you. It looks like you've torn your ACL." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. ACL. Anterior cruciate ligament. I knew what that meant. Surgery. Months of rehab. A long, uncertain road back to the court. How long? I managed to croak out, my voice hoarse with emotion. Dr. Miller sighed. It's hard to say for sure. But typically, it's a 6 to 9 month recovery process. Maybe longer. 6 to 9 months. My heart sank. That meant missing the rest of the season. Missing the summer basketball camps where college scouts would be watching. Missing my chance to prove myself. Is there any chance I can play again this season? I asked, desperately clinging to a sliver of hope. Dr. Miller shook his head. I'm sorry, Alex. It's just not possible. Playing on a torn ACL would be incredibly risky. You could cause further damage, potentially ending your career. My career. The word echoed in my mind, mocking me. Was it over before it even began? The rest of the game was a blur. I watched as the Sharks slowly but surely pulled away, their star center, Marcus, dominating the paint. Our team fought hard, but without me on the court, we just couldn't keep up. The final buzzer sounded, and the Sharks celebrated their victory. Our team trudged off the court, their heads hung low. I wanted to be out there with them, fighting, competing, giving it my all. But I was helpless, sidelined by an injury that had stolen my dream. After the game, my parents came into the locker room. My mom's eyes were red and puffy, and my dad looked grim. They hugged me tightly, offering words of comfort and support. We're so sorry, Alex, my mom said, her voice choked with emotion. We know how much this means to you. We'll get through this, my dad added, squeezing my shoulder. We'll find the best doctors, the best therapists. We'll do everything we can to help you recover. Their words were comforting, but they couldn't erase the pain and disappointment I felt. As we drove home that night, I stared out the window at the passing streetlights, tears streaming down my face. My dream of playing in the NBA felt like it was slipping away. The road ahead seemed long and daunting, filled with uncertainty and challenges. I didn't know if I had the strength to face it. Back in my room, I sat on my bed, staring at the basketball that sat on my desk. It was signed by all my teammates, a reminder of the bonds we shared and the battles we had fought together. I picked up the ball and held it close, feeling the familiar texture of the leather against my skin. A wave of anger washed over me. Anger at myself for getting injured. Anger at the Sharks for winning the game. Anger at the unfairness of it all. But beneath the anger, I felt something else. A flicker of defiance. A spark of determination. I wasn't going to let this injury define me. I wasn't going to let it crush my dream. I would fight. I would work hard. I would do everything in my power to come back stronger than ever. My NBA dream wasn't over. It was just on hold. And I was determined to make it a reality. The next few months would be the hardest of my life, but I was ready to face the challenge. Because I knew, deep down, that I had what it takes to overcome this obstacle and achieve my goals. The road to recovery was going to be long, but I wasn't going to walk it alone. I had my family, my friends, my teammates, and my unwavering belief in myself. And that was enough. The first few weeks after the injury were the worst. The surgery was painful, and the recovery was slow and tedious. I was confined to my bed, my leg immobilized in a brace. I couldn't walk, I couldn't shower without help, and I certainly couldn't play basketball. The days dragged on, filled with boredom and frustration. I watched TV, played video games, and scrolled through social media, but nothing could distract me from the constant ache in my knee and the gnawing fear that my dream was slipping away. I became withdrawn and irritable, snapping at my parents and pushing away my friends. I didn't want to talk about the injury. I didn't want to hear their well-meaning platitudes about how everything would be okay. I just wanted to be left alone with my misery. One afternoon, my best friend, Chris, came over to visit. He was a star soccer player, and he understood the importance of sports in my life. He sat on the edge of my bed, his face filled with concern. "How are you doing, man?" he asked. I shrugged. "Okay, I guess." "That's bull," he said, his voice firm. "I can see you're hurting. But you can't let this get you down, Alex. You're too talented to give up on your dream." I looked away, tears stinging my eyes. "It's easy for you to say," I mumbled. "You're still playing. You don't know what it's like to have your career taken away from you." "Maybe not," Chris said. "But I know what it's like to face adversity. I know what it's like to work hard for something and have it taken away. I tore my hamstring last year, remember? I was out for 6 weeks. That's not the same as tearing your ACL," I said, my voice rising. "This is a career-threatening injury." "So what?" Chris said, his voice rising to match mine. "That doesn't mean you have to give up. It just means you have to work harder. You have to prove everyone wrong." His words struck a chord within me. He was right. I couldn't give up. I had to fight. I had to prove everyone wrong. "How do I do that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Chris smiled. "You start by focusing on what you can control. You can't control the injury, but you can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your rehab." He was right. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could control how I responded to it. I could choose to wallow in self-pity, or I could choose to fight back. "I'm in," I said, a newfound determination filling my voice. "I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back on the court." Chris grinned. "That's the spirit," he said. "I'll be there for you every step of the way. We'll work out together, we'll push each other, and we'll make sure you come back stronger than ever." His support meant the world to me. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed my friends, my family, and my coaches to help me through this difficult time. From that day forward, I changed my attitude. I stopped feeling sorry for myself and started focusing on my recovery. I worked tirelessly with my physical therapist, pushing myself to the limit every day. I did my exercises religiously, even when they were painful and exhausting. I also started studying the game more closely. I watched countless hours of NBA games, analyzing the strategies and techniques of the best players in the world. I learned about different offensive and defensive systems, and I started to develop a deeper understanding of the game. I knew that I couldn't control when I would be able to play again, but I could control how prepared I would be when that day finally came. And I was determined to be ready. More ready than ever before. The road to recovery was long and arduous, but I was no longer walking it alone. I had a purpose, a goal, and a support system that would help me overcome any obstacle. And I knew, deep down, that I would come back stronger than ever. The pain was still there, but it no longer defined me. It was just a reminder of the challenge I had overcome, the obstacle I had conquered. And it fueled my determination to achieve my dream, no matter what it took. Weeks turned into months. The physical therapy was brutal. Every session was a battle against pain, a constant reminder of what I had lost. I would push myself to the point of exhaustion, only to be met with the frustratingly slow pace of recovery. There were days when I wanted to quit. Days when the pain was too much to bear, when the frustration was overwhelming, when the dream seemed too far out of reach. I would lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, tears streaming down my face, wondering if it was all worth it. My coach, Coach Thompson, was a constant source of support. He would call me every week, checking in on my progress and offering words of encouragement. He would come to my physical therapy sessions, watching me work and offering tips and advice. One day, he came to my house and sat down with me in the living room. "Alex," he said, his voice serious, "I know this is tough. I know you're hurting. But you can't let this injury define you. You're more than just a basketball player." His words surprised me. I had always thought of myself as just a basketball player. It was my identity, my passion, my everything. What else am I? I asked, my voice filled with doubt. Coach Thompson smiled. You're a son, a brother, a friend. You're smart, you're talented, and you have a lot to offer the world. Don't let this injury take that away from you. He was right. I was more than just a basketball player. I had other interests, other talents, other things to be grateful for. I know it's hard to see it now, Coach Thompson continued, but this injury could be the best thing that ever happened to you. It could force you to grow, to learn, to become a better person. I looked at him skeptically. How can tearing my ACL be a good thing? Coach Thompson shrugged. It can teach you resilience, perseverance, and the importance of hard work. It can teach you to appreciate the things you have and to never take anything for granted. And it can teach you to be a better teammate, a better leader, and a better person. His words gave me something to think about. Maybe he was right. Maybe this injury wasn't the end of my world. Maybe it was an opportunity to grow and learn and become a better version of myself. I started to look at my recovery in a new light. I stopped focusing on what I couldn't do and started focusing on what I could do. I set small, achievable goals for myself, and I celebrated every victory, no matter how small. I also started to spend more time with my family and friends. I realized how much I had taken them for granted, and I made an effort to be more present and engaged in their lives. I also started to explore other interests. I took up reading, I started learning to play the guitar, and I volunteered at a local animal shelter. I discovered that there was more to life than just basketball. The recovery process was still long and arduous, but it was no longer a source of constant frustration and despair. It was a challenge, an opportunity, a chance to grow and learn and become a better person. And slowly but surely, I started to heal. My knee got stronger, my confidence grew, and my dream of playing in the NBA started to feel within reach again. The journey was far from over, but I was no longer afraid. I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that I had the strength, the resilience, and the support system to overcome anything. The crushed dreams were slowly being rebuilt, stronger and more resilient than before. 6 months after the surgery, I was finally cleared to start light basketball drills. It was a moment I had been dreaming of for months, but as I stepped onto the court, a wave of anxiety washed over me. My knee felt weak and unstable. I was afraid to push myself too hard, afraid of re-injuring it. I dribbled the ball tentatively, my movements stiff and awkward. I tried to shoot a few baskets, but my shots were short and off target. Frustration mounted. I felt like I was starting all over again, like all the hard work I had put in during physical therapy had been for nothing. I sat down on the bench, my head in my hands, tears welling up in my eyes. I can't do this, I mumbled to myself. I'm never going to be the same. Coach Thompson walked over and sat beside me. He didn't say anything, he just put his arm around my shoulder and gave me a comforting squeeze. After a few minutes, I looked up at him, my eyes filled with despair. I'm scared, Coach, I said. I'm scared that I'm never going to be good enough again. Coach Thompson smiled gently. Of course you're scared, Alex, he said. That's normal. But you can't let fear control you. You have to face it, embrace it, and use it to your advantage. How? I asked. By taking small steps, Coach Thompson said. By focusing on the process, not the outcome. By celebrating every victory, no matter how small. He pointed to the basketball in my hands. Start with that, he said. Just dribble the ball for a few minutes. Get comfortable with it again. Feel the rhythm, the bounce, the connection between your hand and the ball. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up the ball and started to dribble. At first, my movements were still stiff and awkward, but as I continued to dribble, I started to loosen up. I started to feel the rhythm again, the familiar connection between my hand and the ball. After a few minutes, I stood up and took a few shots. My shots were still short and off target, but they were better than before. I could feel the improvement, the progress. "See?" Coach Thompson said, smiling. "You're getting there. Just keep practicing, keep working, and keep believing in yourself." His words gave me a boost of confidence. I knew he was right. I couldn't expect to be back to my old self overnight. It would take time, patience, and hard work. But I was willing to put in the effort. I was willing to face my fears and embrace the challenge. Because I knew, deep down, that I had what it takes to come back stronger than ever. From that day forward, I approached my recovery with a new attitude. I stopped comparing myself to my old self and started focusing on the progress I was making each day. I celebrated every small victory, every step forward, every improvement in my game. I also started to visualize my success. I would close my eyes and imagine myself back on the court, playing with confidence, making shots, leading my team to victory. I would visualize myself achieving my dream of playing in the NBA. Visualization became a powerful tool for me. It helped me to stay focused, motivated, and confident. It helped me to believe in myself, even when things were tough. And slowly but surely, I started to regain my form. My knee got stronger, my shots got sharper, and my confidence grew. I was starting to feel like my old self again, but even better. The conversation with Coach Thompson was definitely a turning point. It helped me to see that the injury wasn't the end of my world, but a new beginning. A chance to grow, to learn, and to become a better basketball player and a better person. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that I had the strength, the resilience, and the support system to overcome anything. The next few months were a grind. My days were filled with physical therapy, weightlifting, and basketball drills. I pushed myself harder than I ever had before, determined to make up for lost time. Physical therapy was agonizing. I spent hours stretching, strengthening, and retraining my knee. The exercises were painful and repetitive, but I knew they were essential for my recovery. My physical therapist, Sarah, was tough but supportive. She pushed me to my limits, but she also knew when to back off. She celebrated my progress, no matter how small, and she helped me to stay motivated when I felt like giving up. Weightlifting was also a key part of my recovery. I worked with a trainer to build strength in my legs and core. We focused on exercises that would help to stabilize my knee and prevent future injuries. The weightlifting was challenging, but it was also empowering. I could feel my body getting stronger, more resilient. I started to feel like I was in control of my recovery, like I was taking charge of my future. Basketball drills were the most fun, but also the most frustrating. I started with basic drills, like dribbling and shooting. As my knee got stronger, I progressed to more complex drills, like passing, cutting, and jumping. It was difficult to watch my teammates practicing and playing games while I was stuck on the sidelines. I missed the camaraderie, the competition, the thrill of the game. But I knew I couldn't rush things. I had to be patient, disciplined, and methodical. I had to trust the process and believe that I would eventually get back to where I wanted to be. There were setbacks along the way. Days when my knee would swell up and ache, days when I would feel discouraged and frustrated. But I refused to let those setbacks derail me. I would take a day off to rest and recover, then get right back to work. I also relied on my support system to help me through the tough times. My family, my friends, my coaches, they were all there for me, offering encouragement, advice, and a listening ear. My mom would cook me healthy meals, my dad would drive me to physical therapy, and my friends would come over to play video games or just hang out. Coach Thompson would continue to check in on me, offering words of wisdom and reminding me of my goals. Their support meant the world to me. It helped me to stay positive, motivated, and focused. It reminded me that I wasn't alone on this journey. Slowly but surely, I started to see progress. My knee got stronger, my skills improved, and my confidence grew. I was starting to feel like my old self again, but even better. I was stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. I had overcome a major obstacle, and I had learned valuable lessons about myself, about the game of basketball, and about the importance of hard work and perseverance. The road to recovery had been long and arduous, but it had also been transformative. It had made me a better basketball player, a better person, and a better leader. The pain and frustration were worth it. I was ready to get back on the court and prove to myself and to the world that I was ready to realize my dream. The unwavering support and the sweat equity poured into the recovery process had prepared me for whatever challenges awaited. Beyond the physical challenges, the mental game was just as crucial, if not more so. The injury had shaken my confidence. Doubt crept in like an insidious weed, threatening to choke my dreams. I knew I had to cultivate mental fortitude to truly come back. I started practicing positive self-talk. Every morning, I would stand in front of the mirror and repeat affirmations: I am strong. I am resilient. I am capable of achieving my goals. It felt silly at first, but over time, it helped to reprogram my mind. I began to believe in myself again. Visualization became an integral part of my routine. I would spend 15 to 20 minutes each day visualizing myself playing basketball at the highest level. I would imagine myself dribbling past defenders, making clutch shots, and leading my team to victory. I focused on the details: the feel of the ball in my hands, the squeak of my sneakers on the court, the roar of the crowd. Coach Thompson also encouraged me to study film. He would give me tapes of NBA games and ask me to analyze the strategies, the plays, and the movements of the players. At first, I just watched the games passively, but as I started to analyze them more critically, I began to see the game in a new light. I learned about spacing, timing, and angles. I learned how to read defenses, anticipate passes, and create scoring opportunities. I learned that basketball was more than just athleticism, it was also about intelligence, strategy, and anticipation. I started to apply what I learned from the film to my own game. I would visualize myself executing the plays, making the passes, and creating the scoring opportunities. I practiced these things in my mind, over and over again, until they became second nature. I also started to work on my mental toughness. I would put myself in challenging situations during practice, like shooting free throws with the game on the line, or guarding a tough opponent when I was tired and sore. I would force myself to stay focused, to stay calm, and to execute under pressure. I learned that mental toughness was like a muscle: the more you worked it, the stronger it became. Over time, I became more resilient, more confident, and more able to handle the pressure of competition. The mental challenges of recovery were just as difficult as the physical challenges, but they were also just as rewarding. I learned valuable lessons about myself, about the game of basketball, and about the importance of mental fortitude. I learned that I was stronger than I thought I was, that I was capable of overcoming any obstacle, and that I had the mental toughness to achieve my goals. The mental game was now as sharp as my physical preparation. I was ready to step back on the court and show the world what I was capable of. The combination of physical and mental training had forged me into a more complete athlete. The day finally arrived. The day I had been dreaming of, working towards, and praying for. The day I would step back onto the basketball court and play with my team again. It was a scrimmage, an informal practice game against a local team. Coach Thompson wanted to ease me back into competition gradually, to give me a chance to shake off the rust and regain my confidence. As I walked onto the court, I felt a mix of emotions: excitement, nervousness, and anticipation. It had been nearly a year since I had last played in a real game, and I wasn't sure what to expect. My teammates greeted me with cheers and high fives. They were happy to have me back, and their support gave me a boost of confidence. The game started, and I was immediately thrown into the action. I was rusty, no doubt about it. My timing was off, my shots were short, and my movements were hesitant. I made several mistakes: turnovers, missed shots, defensive lapses. I could feel the frustration mounting inside me. I wanted to be perfect, to prove that I was back, that I was better than ever. But it wasn't happening. Coach Thompson called a timeout and pulled me aside. "Relax, Alex," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Don't try to do too much. Just play your game, have fun, and let things come naturally." His words helped to calm my nerves. I took a deep breath and refocused. I reminded myself of all the hard work I had put in, all the mental training I had done. I told myself that I was ready, that I was capable, and that I was going to succeed. I went back into the game with a new attitude. I stopped trying to force things and started letting the game come to me. I focused on making smart passes, playing solid defense, and taking good shots. Slowly but surely, I started to find my rhythm. My timing improved, my shots started falling, and my movements became more fluid. I started to feel like myself again, but even better. I made a few key plays down the stretch, scoring a few baskets, grabbing a few rebounds, and dishing out a few assists. My teammates started to feed off my energy, and we pulled away to win the game. It wasn't a perfect performance, but it was a victory. It was a sign that I was on the right track, that I was making progress, and that I was capable of achieving my goals. As I walked off the court, I felt a sense of accomplishment and gratitude. I had overcome a major obstacle, and I was back where I belonged. I was back on the basketball court, playing with my team, and pursuing my dream. The journey was far from over, but I was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. I was stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. I was back, and I was ready to make my mark. The initial nervousness had been replaced with a quiet confidence earned through sweat and perseverance. I was ready to play. The rest of my high school career was a blur of hard work, dedication, and success. I played with a newfound sense of purpose, a burning desire to prove myself and to show the world that I was back, that I was better than ever. I was no longer just a scorer, I was a leader, a playmaker, and a defensive stopper. I had developed a deeper understanding of the game, a higher basketball IQ, and a stronger mental game. I was averaging 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. I was named to the All-State team, and I was even being talked about as a potential McDonald's All-American. But the accolades didn't matter as much as the feeling of accomplishment, the satisfaction of knowing that I had overcome a major obstacle and achieved my goals. There were several key games and moments that stood out during that time. One game, against our rivals, the Southwood Sharks, was particularly memorable. It was the championship game, a rematch of the game where I had torn my ACL. The gym was packed, the atmosphere was electric, and the stakes were high. I was determined to make a statement, to show the Sharks that I was a different player than I had been before the injury. I played with a chip on my shoulder, a burning desire to avenge my past. I scored 35 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and dished out 8 assists. I led my team to a convincing victory, and I was named the MVP of the game. After the game, I was swarmed by reporters, teammates, and fans. Everyone wanted to talk to me, to congratulate me, to celebrate my success. But the most meaningful moment came when I saw Coach Thompson walking towards me. He had a proud look on his face, and he gave me a big hug. "I'm so proud of you, Alex," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You've overcome so much, and you've become a better player and a better person because of it." His words meant the world to me. He had believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and he had helped me to reach my full potential. Another key moment came during a summer basketball camp. There were college scouts from all over the country in attendance, and I knew I had to perform well to get their attention. I played with confidence, skill, and determination. I showcased my athleticism, my shooting ability, and my basketball IQ. I impressed the scouts with my leadership, my teamwork, and my mental toughness. I received several scholarship offers from top universities, and I eventually committed to play basketball at Duke University. It was a dream come true. I had risen above the adversity, I had exceeded expectations, and I had proven to myself and to the world that I was capable of achieving my goals. The injury that had once threatened to derail my career had actually made me stronger, more resilient, and more determined. I was ready for the next chapter of my journey. I had gone from being a player with potential to a bona fide prospect with a bright future ahead of him. 3 years flew by at Duke. I poured my heart and soul into every practice, every game, every workout. I honed my skills, refined my game, and developed into a leader on and off the court. I experienced the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and the unwavering support of my teammates and coaches. Now, here I was, on the precipice of realizing my lifelong dream. Draft day. The atmosphere in my living room was a mix of nervous anticipation and quiet excitement. My family, my closest friends, and Coach Thompson were all there, sharing this momentous occasion with me. The TV was on, broadcasting the draft live from New York City. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was pounding in my chest. I had worked so hard for this moment, sacrificed so much, and overcome so many obstacles. The first few picks went by quickly. I watched as my fellow prospects, guys I had played against and admired for years, had their names called and walked across the stage to shake hands with the commissioner. With each passing pick, the tension in the room grew thicker. My name was projected to be called somewhere in the top 10, but you never really knew what was going to happen on draft day. Teams could trade picks, change their minds, or surprise everyone with an unexpected selection. My agent, David, was on the phone, relaying information from various teams. He kept telling me to stay patient, to trust the process, and to believe in myself. But it was hard to stay patient when my entire future was hanging in the balance. The 7th pick came and went. Then the 8th. And the 9th. My anxiety was reaching a fever pitch. I tried to focus on my breathing, to remind myself that I had done everything I could to prepare for this moment. Then, the phone rang. It was David. He told me to stay calm, but his voice was trembling with excitement. "Alex," he said, "the Toronto Raptors are on the clock, and they're going to draft you with the 10th pick." A wave of relief washed over me. I had done it. I was going to the NBA. I hugged my mom, my dad, my sister, my friends, and Coach Thompson. Tears welled up in my eyes. It was a moment I would never forget. I walked over to the TV and waited for my name to be called. The commissioner stepped up to the podium and announced, with the 10th pick in the 2027 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select Alex Johnson from Duke University. The room erupted in cheers. I raised my arms in triumph, a huge smile spreading across my face. I had achieved my dream. I was going to the NBA. The culmination of years of sacrifice, perseverance, and unwavering belief in myself had finally arrived. The nervousness transformed into pure elation. The journey had just begun. The next few days were a whirlwind. Interviews, photo shoots, meetings with the Raptors coaching staff and management. I was officially a professional basketball player. As I sat alone in my hotel room that night, I allowed myself a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought me here. It had been a long and arduous road, filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The ACL injury had been a defining moment in my life. It had tested my resilience, my determination, and my mental toughness. It had forced me to grow, to learn, and to become a better version of myself. I realized that the injury had not been a curse, but a blessing in disguise. It had taught me the importance of hard work, perseverance, and never giving up on my dreams. It had also taught me the importance of gratitude, humility, and appreciating the support of my family, friends, and coaches. I thought back to that championship game, the moment when my knee buckled beneath me, the moment when my world seemed to crumble. I remembered the pain, the fear, and the despair. But I also remembered the support of my teammates, the encouragement of my coaches, and the unwavering love of my family. I remembered the hard work, the dedication, and the mental fortitude that had helped me to overcome that obstacle. I had come a long way since that day. I had transformed myself from a player with potential to a professional basketball player with a bright future ahead of me. I knew that the journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new obstacles, and new moments of doubt. But I was confident that I had the tools, the skills, and the mindset to overcome anything that came my way. I was grateful for the opportunity to play in the NBA, to represent the Toronto Raptors, and to inspire others to pursue their dreams. I was determined to make the most of this opportunity, to work hard, to play with passion, and to give back to the community. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I smiled. I had achieved my dream. I was an NBA player. And I knew, deep down, that the best was yet to come. My journey had taught me resilience, gratitude, and the importance of a strong support system. The injury had made me stronger. I was ready for the NBA. The end.